is, what is the main role of a counselor?
What is the main role of a counselor? The main role of a professional counselor, there's a lot of different types of counselors. And I'm a professional counselor,
Okay.
licensed professional counselor. But, you know, attorneys are also called counselors.
Okay.
So for a professional, licensed professional counselor, we do mental health treatment.
Okay.
And so our main role, our main focus is treating mental health needs.
Okay. Okay. To treat mental health
Needs, you know. Now we might do that, like I do, this is outpatient counseling.
Okay.
But other people do inpatient counseling, residential counseling.
Okay. Okay. And so I have like she goes to our church and stuff, and she's a counselor, and like she told me, because I was telling her that, you know, I'm interested in counseling and stuff, and she said that, you know, if I want to become a counselor, I don't have to like specify like a certain counseling, like I don't have to do like just family. I can go to college for a counseling, and I can like do all sorts of different counseling and stuff. So.
Right. And there are different degrees that you can get.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your college degree is not going to be the same as your master's degree.
Okay. Okay.
It doesn't have to be the same anyway.
Okay. What do you think are some good qualities to have if someone is pursuing counseling?
Well, I really believe that, especially if you're a Christian, that it really needs to be a calling.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that you have to be able to empathize with other people.
And do you think, like, in order to be like a really like a good counselor and to, you know, connect with people, you should have like been able to experience certain like things too. Like, you know, if I want to pursue, like, help teenagers who've gone through divorce, like, since I have a divorced family, wouldn't I be able to like connect with them a lot better than someone who, you know, has never gone through that and stuff, you know? So you think?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Sometimes, no, definitely not.
Okay.
It's really not necessary for you to have gone through the same things that you counsel people. If that were true, then we would all be in pretty bad shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, counselors would have gone through,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
But because, especially since, you know, it's not an issue of being able to fix the other person. It's an issue of being able to connect
Yeah.
and empathize with the other person.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean you have to have the same experience.
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. What is the difference between a counselor and a therapist?
That's a great question. That's kind of what I meant earlier when I said there are different kinds of counselors.
Okay.
When you hear the word therapist, that means that's referring to somebody who specifically is a counselor in the mental health field. And that
Okay.
person usually is licensed by the state.
Okay.
So it's kind of a psychotherapist. That's kind of a broad, general umbrella term
Okay.
that could apply to a person who's a licensed professional counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a social worker, a marriage and family therapist, a mental health counselor.
Yeah. Let me see. You said a therapist is someone who's like licensed by the state and someone who works with like
Usually
mental.
it refers to somebody who's
Okay.
licensed by the state. Usually. It's really a broad term.
Normally. Okay. Do you think it would be better to get a doctorate degree in counseling or psychology rather than just doing get a 4-year degree if someone is trying to open up their own practice? Like, don't you have to get a doctorate in order if you want to open your own practice?
You have to have a master's.
A master's. Okay.
Yeah. You have
Okay.
to have a master's and be fully licensed by the state.
Okay.
And what the state requires is a master's degree.
Okay. Yeah, because that's kind of something that I've been thinking about doing. Like, I've wanted to, like, I'm trying to pursue counseling, but at the same time, I'm kind of like thinking I kind of want to have my own practice, you know, at the same time. So.
Yeah. But you don't have to have a doctorate to do that. You
Okay.
just have to be fully licensed.
Okay. What what influenced you to become a counselor?
That's a good question. I've really, for me, I think I was called, I felt a calling by God
Okay.
when I was about 14 years old to be in ministry. And I thought that meant I would be a doctor.
Okay.
So I pursued medicine in college, and in order to be a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Because my family really taught, my father's a retired pastor, and he really taught the importance of helping hurting families.
Okay. All right. So,
But when I was a sophomore in high school, I got to start choosing my classes. And I saw they had a psychology class. And my parents said I could choose any class I wanted, but they didn't know about that psychology. So I chose it. I thought somebody needed to know, right?
yeah.
Somebody needed to know about it. So that's what I chose. And I loved it. I loved the study of psychology and understanding people. And, so since I couldn't go to medical school because I pass out when I see blood, I decided I would get a master's in counseling.
Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. Do you think everyone should like have a counselor or someone to talk to? Like everyone should at least like have a counselor or somebody to talk to if they need to like talk. You know.
I
Like,
do. I think everybody needs somebody to talk to. That doesn't mean it has to be a professional counselor. It might be a pastor or a youth pastor, a teacher, school counselor, a parent. But yeah, I do think counseling is very important. But professional counseling, especially when people start having issues like depression or
Yeah.
anxiety, I think a professional counselor is very important.
okay. How do you handle stress while being a counselor?
That's a good question too. People always ask me, well, how do you deal with hearing all these negative, bad,
Yeah.
painful stories all day? And there's a couple things. One is I really do believe I'm called by God, and I've been given this gift. I'm gifted by God to be able to do that. And I do spend a lot of time in the Word and praying, and really do get strength from God to do it. But I also have, instead of working alone,
Mm-hmm.
I have other counselors that I work with,
Okay.
and so I'm able to go and talk with them and be able to collaborate. And you talk about, you know, how do I deal with this or that issue?
Good too.
And I do a lot of, you know, reading and studying, so I feel prepared, so I don't feel overwhelmed by the issues that people bring in. And I've been doing this for 33 and a half
Oh,
years
wow.
now.
That's awesome. Yeah. I don't know. It just really caught my like attention as counseling, and I'm like, I feel like that could really be a good one. But how do you see the word leader fitting into your role as a counselor?
For me, I'm the director of this counseling center, and
Okay.
I really do see that I am a leader of other counselors, but also a leader with my clients. And I think that it's really important that counselors work on their own issues in order to be able to lead their clients to deal with issues that are really difficult to deal with. Life isn't easy for anybody. That's a myth, that there's somebody out there that's got it easy, and it's just not true. Life is hard for everyone. It's more a matter of seeking out help. And whether you seek that out for a professional counselor or a pastoral counselor or someone else, a Boy Scout leader, whoever it is that you seek the help with. And so as counselors, I think we lead our clients by being willing to go into areas of our own life that we ask them to go into. But then also, for me, I lead as I lead the other counselors in the counseling center here.
Sorry.
That's good. I'm talking fast. So it's probably a good thing he's recording.
Okay. Do you think? Hold on. Do you think? Let me see. Oh, I already asked you that. How do you keep a healthy relationship with your clients?
Well, we have boundaries,
Okay.
and there's a lot of time spent. Every 2 years, we have to get ethics hours, and that helps us really focus on how do we set healthy boundaries with clients. We maintain a professional distance while being very real and caring about my clients. Also, I believe that God is in charge, and that instead of me having answers, that really God has the answers. And so it's not me trying to fix my clients. I also supervise students and interns, younger counselors who haven't been in the field as long.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest issues that causes burnout, is this idea that somehow I'm responsible to
Yeah.
fix people, but people are responsible for themselves, and their help is really with God.
Yeah. What do you think is your greatest asset as being a counselor? Like, what is your, like, yeah.
I think my ability to empathize with other people is one of my greatest assets. I have a natural empathetic personality, I guess. Not just, I've been that way since I was
Oh, yeah.
young. I was a peer counselor in high school.
That's cool. Alright, this is a good, I don't know. So if you're faced with like a client who is struggling with like depression issues or something like that, how do you handle like that? Like, how do you go about like helping that issue, like suicidal ideas or just depression in general?
Well, that's really a broad question, because it really depends. It depends on the client. It depends on how they, exactly what form their depression takes. I do talk therapy, and
Okay.
so I have a basic format that I follow with talk therapy.
Okay.
And I don't dispense medication. I'm not a psychiatrist. And so I do talk therapy. So I follow a protocol of getting people to tell their stories and to talk about what's going on, and trying to get to the root of their depression, and figure out what's at the root of that. And my specialty really is trauma and trauma recovery. And my belief is that childhood trauma especially, is at the root of most depression.
Okay. Let's see. But honestly, that was like all the questions. Can you tell me again, like, the main role of the counselor? You were saying there's all kinds of different counselors, like the professional counselor. Like, what's the main role again? Like the mental health needs.
Right,
Is that
to address mental health needs,
okay?
to begin to help people heal from mental health diseases. And you can, in what we talk about with counselors, is to facilitate change.
Facilitate. What like when you say to facilitate change, like what do you mean like by all that, like
Well, what I mean is that there's a lot of research that shows that mental health issues are frequently caused by choices, decisions,
Yeah.
behaviors,
Yeah.
either in the person's past or in their present.
Okay.
And so changing is what helps alleviate a lot of mental health issues like depression. Now there are other mental health issues such as schizophrenia that are more genetic and brain-based.
Okay.
Not that they're not all brain-based, but they are, that's the root. The root is the brain is misfiring
Okay.
and misfunctioning. So while those are some things that, you know, to facilitate change would mean something different for each mental health
Yeah.
disorder. It's not
Okay.
as cut and dry as like a medical doctor is.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you have a specific virus, they're able to look under the telescope and see, okay, this is the virus you have. This is the medicine that treats that
Yeah.
illness.
Yeah. And then being a counselor, there's all kinds of different things that you have to go into and stuff in order to
Well,
find the issues that you need to work on, because there's so much that there's there. You know, especially if you're dealing with depression and stuff. You know, there's like a lot that could be there. You know, like you were saying, you know,
That's at the root of
childhood.
the depression.
Yeah. So.
And research shows that 30% of what contributes to change in counseling, positive change in counseling, is the relationship. So it's the highest number next to things outside that the client brings in with them. The technique isn't as important as the relationship.
That actually went quicker than I thought it was going to go.
There's a lot of different philosophies in counseling. So interviewing me, you may interview another counselor,
Yeah.
and they may tell you something totally different.
Yeah.
Because there are you put 10 counselors in a room, and we're going to disagree usually on what the problem is, what needs to be done, how do we approach it. It's a much more relationally oriented type
Yeah.
of treatment than medicine is. Medicine, the doctor comes in, doesn't hardly talk to you,
Yeah.
writes a prescription, and leaves. And that's about what medicine is. But counseling is not like that. Counseling is all about relationship. You need to figure out some more questions to ask.
I was thinking I think I probably should have got more questions than I did, didn't I?
Anything come to
But
mind? This may not be on your paper, but
yeah. I mean, these questions, like I was. And you were saying that, you know, you don't have to go through certain situations in order to be a really good counselor. You just need to be able to connect with, you know, the clients and stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah,
And
my-
you need to be able to have compassion.
Yeah.
You need to be able to have compassion for people. So, for example, you may have had some kind of pain as a counselor in your
Yeah.
childhood, and you don't have to have the same kind of emotional pain that somebody else has.
Yeah.
But you can still connect with them using empathy. Empathy is being able to connect inside of yourself with something that's similar to what the person is going through. So it doesn't have to be the exact same thing
Yeah.
for
Of
you
course.
to be able to understand their pain. There is some research when it comes to addiction
Yeah.
that, because I'm an addiction counselor also, that having a counselor who understands or has been an addict, sometimes it can help,
Yeah.
sometimes it can interfere.
Of course.
So there's mixed research on whether or not it's helpful to have gone through the same thing that a client went through, is going through. what the Bible says, one of the things that is in the Bible is that we comfort other people with the
Yeah.
comfort that we've received from God.
Yeah.
And so really you have to be open to dealing with the issues that you've had by seeking comfort from God in order to be able to comfort other people.
And I guess I could probably my final question, but for someone who's going into like who's pursuing counseling or anything, do you have like any advice or anything that you like anything you could say to them that would help them?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. I would say that you start out getting in college a broad base. In other words, you don't have to study psychology. You don't have to study social work. I studied biology. I was a biology major because I was pre-med, and that has really helped me a lot in the psychology field. When you get your master's degree, the most versatile degree
Mm-hmm.
is the social worker.
Social
degree.
worker.
That is the most versatile degree available right now. Is the social work degree. They're the strongest. They are more people hire them in more different types of situations.
Yeah.
They're able to do things that licensed professional counselors aren't able to do, even though we have the same number of years and most of the same classes. Now they don't have as many counseling classes, which is really interesting because they're in social work, but it is a very strong group.
Yeah. And like social worker, it isn't just like that's not just for like what am I trying to say? What do they call that? They call that hold on, I'm thinking.
Like DFACS
Yes,
workers.
yes. It's not just social like
In fact, most
social
DFACS workers don't have a master's degree,
Okay.
and some of them don't even have a bachelor's degree. So,
Okay. Okay. Because every time I hear about like defects or something like that, it's always like social worker. You have to have a social worker or something like that. So I didn't know if that was like.
They call them social workers,
Yeah.
but that's not the case.
Okay.
Not anymore anyway.
Okay. Well.
Complicated, but a social work degree, you can work in school systems, you can work in the military, you can work at the VA, you can work in private practice, you can work for different organizations. It's a very versatile degree.
So you can have a counseling practice as a social worker.
Yes.
Oh,
One of
okay.
our play therapists.
So like
Paula's
if
a
I
social
wanted to
worker.
like have my own practice, I could go and get like the social worker degree or whatever, and
Yep.
I could have my own practice.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Everybody has to go to 4 years of college, or at least graduate with a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And then after your bachelor's degree, then you apply to whatever school you want to go to for your master's, or if you want to go straight to a PhD.
Okay.
And so when you go to a master's or a PhD, there are different subjects, there are different majors. So you could have a social work major,
Mhm.
you could have a professional counselor major, or a counseling major.
Yeah.
Mine, for example, I went to Georgia State for my master's degree,
Okay.
and I have a community counseling was the degree program then.
Yeah.
MS in community counseling.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny because that's like kind of the school I want to go to. That's like where I'm like thinking about going is Georgia State. I've been thinking about that a lot. Just
It's
like,
a good school. We just actually had a tour of it. Maybe you want to go back. The tour was so good. It's a good school.
that's cool. Cool. Well.
But it doesn't really, honestly, as long as it's accredited,
Mhm.
your bachelor's degree, you have to go on and get a master's degree. So
Yeah.
you want a school that's going to prepare you to take the GRE and get good scores in the GRE, and prepare you to apply to the program that you want to be in. And if you want to go for a doctorate, then you should get probably an undergraduate degree in some sort of social sciences. Someplace in the sciences,
Yeah.
usually.
See if there's anything else.
And you really need to have a love for science. I love
Yeah.
science.
Yeah.
You really need to have a love for science and a love for people.
Yeah, that's like math and science are my two favorite subjects in general. I've always been because at the very beginning, like when I was a kid, I always wanted to go become a mechanical engineer, and then throughout the few years I've been like thinking, because I felt like God was calling me to become a missionary, and then I felt like God was calling me to do something else, and then like right now I just feel like it's counseling. You know, because I feel like God's calling me to the ministry. You know, and I feel like that's where He's calling me, is to be a counselor and to help other people out. You know, so yeah, that's what I feel like.
That's
You know,
great.
I feel like,
Mhm.
and I feel like I could be a good counselor. I feel like I could really help other people, and that's really what I want to do, is to be able to help other people and stuff. So, but yeah,
Great. Any other questions?
I don't think so. I think I actually got a lot more than just the questions that I had there. So that's great. So I think that's about it. I think I got everything I need.
Okay.